this for a weekend win.
Listen. Somebody, just to know.
So that was the crowd in front of the Pyramid stage, stepping in to help Lewis Capaldi when his Tourette's took over mid-song. And Lewis revealed last year he has Tourette syndrome, and you could see he was dealing with the symptoms of that on stage, as well as a sore throat. It's quite emotional, really. Dr. Jeremy Stern is a neurologist at St George's Hospital from the charity Tourette's Action. Jeremy, Dr. Stern, hello.
Good morning.
Morning. And I've also got 17-year-old musician Wilamena Dyer, who has Tourette's and was inspired by Lewis Capaldi at the weekend. She was watching it on telly with her family. Wilamena, hello.
Hiya.
Hiya. Wilamena, I'm going to start with you. What did it feel like? You were obviously watching Lewis. I'm assuming you're a fan anyway. But since he revealed that he has Tourette's, some affinity there, some sympathy as well?
Yeah, I think watching it was quite moving and emotional for most people. But particularly, I think, obviously seeing him struggle with his tics throughout the song was hard to watch and emotional. But mostly how the audience really were encouraging him and supporting him, I think was the thing that touched me most, and showing how supportive they were towards him and how they just wanted him to keep going.
What's your Tourette's? How does it how does it arise, appear, manifest?
Yeah, I've had tics since around the age of 5, and throughout the years I have had many varieties of tics. You name it, I've probably had it. Other than coprolalia, which is swearing tics, that is something that I don't have. But my tics on a daily basis are happening most of the time. Sometimes they can interfere with things that you wouldn't even think about, like walking, sometimes my breathing, and some days it doesn't interfere at all. It's very varied.
Do you have medication for it?
Yeah, I've been medicated since a young age.
Okay. I mean, I can see you, our viewers can't, our listeners can't. I can see you're in a parked car in the passenger seat. And as you were talking, I didn't see any tics, but I've just seen, I'm not sure if it is a tic, your head nodded to one side. Is that one of the tics today?
Yeah. And I still have my very first tic of scratching my nose that has happened every day of my life since I was 4. That's one that has really stuck with me.
So you just automatically scratch the end of your nose?
Yeah, I sort of twitch my nose.
Oh, okay. Well, let's find out more about what Tourette's is. And I think it's really important, Dr. Jeremy Stern, that Wilamena made the point there. There's the Tourette's. I mean, when I was growing up, there were jokes, weren't there, about Tourette's, and it was thought to be really funny if someone swore all the time. And that's the only form of Tourette's that anyone was ever really aware about. And now that's, thankfully, that kind of impression of Tourette's has largely been put away.
Yes, that's right. And it does tend to get misrepresented in the media for understandable reasons. So the involuntary swearing, we think, affects about 10% of people with Tourette syndrome. And for those it does affect, obviously it's very important, so I'm not minimising that. But the core of what Tourette syndrome is what Wilamena was describing, which are tics, are involuntary movements and noises, which can be quite simple or can be quite complex and tend to vary over time and tend to vary according to what's going on around the person.
Do you know what causes it? Do we know what causes it?
In some ways we can answer that question, in other ways we don't really have the answer. So it's a neurodevelopmental syndrome that seems to occur due to a difference in the growth of the brain before we're born and afterwards, making people more vulnerable to having these involuntary movements and associated with other neurodevelopmental problems such as ADHD, autism, OCD. So these things can go hand in hand.
Is it hereditary?
Yes, there is an important genetic component which we're learning more about over the last 10, 20 years or longer. So it will often run in families. So many people with Tourette syndrome will have other people in their family who have tics or have OCD or ADHD and the other conditions. But it's not due to one single gene. So for some genetic conditions in medicine, we can test for the gene, and if you have that gene, then you have the condition. But Tourette syndrome is really not like that. It's due to many, many genes that seem to add to the vulnerability of having tics or not having tics, and we're learning more about those genes now.
And Wilamena was talking about being medicated, having medication. What medication is on offer?
So medication is imperfect. For some people, it can be very useful and very good. For other people, it's less effective and it's not very predictable. Actually, the main kind of medication used are antipsychotic drugs, which sounds a bit scary, but there's no link between having tics and having psychosis. It's just that these drugs affect the dopamine system in the brain, and there are different dopamine circuits, including those that help control movement. And for many people, these are quite useful. But it's not just medication. The other type of treatment is a specialized kind of cognitive behavioral therapy, which unfortunately is quite hard to access to see a therapist in this country.
Wilamena, you are a musician yourself, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
What do you play?
I'm a cellist and a percussionist.
And how does your Tourette's affect your music playing, if at all?
Yeah, well, I started playing music from about the age of 5, so very young. But I noticed that as I got older, as my tics sort of became more noticeable and became more severe, that when I played music, they faded away. I tend to describe it to people as that when I'm playing music, my brain is so immersed in the music and so focused that the bit of my brain that causes me to tic is too busy to sort of make that happen. So whenever I'm playing or performing, my tics tend to go away.
Wow, okay. I think we can hear some of you playing. Let's do that. Wow, that is beautiful, Wilamena. That is, it's quite such a contrast to Lewis Capaldi, but absolutely beautiful. So you can kind of almost lose yourself because you're so focused when you're playing.
Yeah, pretty much. Especially when I'm in sort of group playing as well. Every now and then, if I'm in a practice room on my own, sometimes the tics get a chance to come in. But in general, 90% of the time, whenever I'm playing, the tics just completely fade away.
Tell me, Wilamena, how do people react to your tics?
I get very varied responses. Now the awareness is being raised, which is amazing, but there is still the misconception and stigma that when I say I've got Tourette's, people are expecting me to shout swear words at them, which obviously sometimes is the case, but is a lot rarer than people might expect. So it's often oversimplified in that respect because you don't think about all the other aspects of Tourette's, whether that's the comorbidities like OCD or anxiety, that kind of thing, or even the variety and complex tics that some people have throughout their life. So sometimes people are really positive. Sometimes if people don't understand properly, you can get negative responses. But I've kind of learned over the years, as I've started to accept it myself, that educating the people around me makes it so much easier, because as soon as people are aware and fully understand, no one ever has a problem with it. It's only when people aren't aware or haven't been educated that they're more likely to say something offhand.
Well, it's a good lesson for us all. Wilamena, thank you so much for talking to us, and thank you for that, providing us with that beautiful clip of your music as well. Good luck with the studies. And Dr. Jeremy Stern, thank you very much for your expertise. It's definitely a condition that's worth highlighting and being educated